Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today I felt the need to talk about, simply put, the biggest story in hockey right now, a potential and more likely shutdown coming the NHL's way over these next couple of weeks. Now, if you guys don't know, right now 5 different NHL teams and possibly more have been shut down until after the Christmas break, meaning no games for them in the next week or so, and that could be climbing as well over the next couple of days. There has been a ton of new positive COVID cases over the past couple of weeks that has led the NHL to do this, but we could end up actually seeing a league-wide pause pretty soon. But when it comes to this whole situation, an escalating situation, what is the latest updates and the latest news? What could we expect the NHL to do? What comes next? And how does this affect the Olympics and this NHL season? Watch till the end for all those updates and all the latest news, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new. 55% of the people that are watching are not subscribed. If you like hockey, this channel is the place to be. Now, if you don't know, the NHL COVID-wise over the first couple of months of the season was actually a pretty great situation. There were some cases here or there, but no teams that really got overwhelmed with the system, and it was pretty good and dandy until the Thanksgiving break came and went, and now we've gone in December, and the floodgates have seemingly opened in terms of positive COVID cases. Now, obviously, some of that is because of the Omicron variant, and we've seen that affect the NHL now, but the Calgary Flames were really the first team to truly get affected by it, and we've seen almost every single player, it feels like, in some of the coaching staff as well, be positive and be put on COVID protocol over the last couple of weeks. That's where it really first started, and then we saw the Avalanche and the Panthers recently also being shut down by the NHL, and now today we're getting official word that the Boston Bruins and the Nashville Predators are also among the teams to get shut down. That's a pretty big chunk of the entire NHL that will not be playing until after the Christmas break, and that's not even counting the rest of the NHL, who has a ton of players that are on COVID protocol that will have their team shorthanded for the next little bit. And that's not even talking about teams that have been shorthanded in the past, like New York Islanders, who probably should have gotten shut down way before they did, and then you also have the Canes, who have a ton of positive cases, who they have also not gotten shut down for some reason. But Pierre LeBrun made a very interesting tweet this morning that gives us a little bit of an idea of what the NHL might be thinking here and what the current situation might be. And Pierre LeBrun, of course, of TSN, said this: expect more NHL postponements to be announced today, basically meaning the Boston Bruins and the Nashville Predators, which have been announced. A league-wide pause feels inevitable, but for now, sense is the NHL and NHLPA will try to power through these next few days, if possible, with case-by-case approach still. And that's basically been what the NHL has done these past couple weeks, going by a case-by-case basis, team-by-team basis, not really entertaining the idea of an NHL-wide shutdown. But again, Pierre LeBrun says it feels inevitable at this point. And let's be honest, if the NHL were to shut down over the next week, it would make sense on a timetable perspective. Obviously, you have the Christmas break coming up, but at the same time, a lot of these games over the next week are big money makers for the NHL, and we've seen teams like Vancouver stress that, and now they've been shut down over the next little bit, which again is very, very important. We've seen Vancouver, now Toronto, have postponed games, a lot going on there, but some of those games are huge money makers for the NHL. So even though on paper it does make sense to postpone and potentially shut down the league for that week, it would still cause a big loss for the NHL and a big loss for money, which obviously is their main goal. But the problem I see is that if the NHL were to postpone, and a lot of people were saying for the NHL to postpone and not really doing anything to the COVID protocols, which I think would be a mistake. If the NHL just postponed for 2 weeks and then came back without any harsher protocols, the same situation would happen again, and players would still be getting COVID at the rate they're getting it now. But it seems like the NHL, and it looks like it's been made official over the past day, they've put in some harsher protocols for the players, which have kind of leaned more back into what we saw last season during the 2020 and 2021 regular season. So that is something that the NHL has been leaning towards, and the protocols have gotten stricter, which I think is really the biggest thing that can separate and can minimize these COVID cases. But at the same time, there's a lot of discourse around what the NHL should be doing, how they should be doing it, and really it's all been just super scary to see go down, because with how well the first couple months of the season went, it's pretty drastic to see just how quickly it's gone down the drain. I mean, last year was really interesting. We saw teams get shut down at the start of the season. We saw the Stars, without even playing a game, have like a bunch of their players down. This year was going so amazingly, and it all fell apart in just a matter of 2 weeks, really. Now, going back to what the players and the coaches and really NHL might be thinking when it comes to all this, there was a really interesting tweet by Adrian Dater that said this, again, regarding what the players are thinking right now with increased protocols and the COVID situation in the NHL. Many I've talked to in the NHL, players, management, etc., are fed up with the COVID protocol. One called it a charade. The overall frustrated feeling can be summed up as, these are some of the fittest players on the planet. They're vaccinated and nobody ever really gets sick. Enough. And then there was another tweet I saw which was pretty fascinating, actually coming from Steve Yzerman himself today and talking about this situation. And this is coming from Brad Gawley, who said this: Red Wings GM Steve Yzerman is asking why the NHL is testing vaccinated players if they don't have symptoms. He said most of the cases across the league are at worst a mild cold. And again, you start to get into the frustration of the NHL situation here. And throughout what I've seen on the internet so far over the past couple weeks, there's really been two sides to this whole situation in terms of the fans. I've seen one side saying that as soon as players get tested positive, you put them on a COVID protocol, you could shut down the season and try to get that underway and try to keep it as safe as humanly possible. And then you have the other side that says that you shouldn't test these players unless they're symptomatic, unless they have big symptoms and they are really sick and showing those signs of sickness. And instead of having all these guys on protocol, you don't test them until they need to, and you have them just playing in the NHL because they're vaccinated and everything. And I'm not even really sure what side of the coin I flip on, really. I want to know your guys' thoughts on that, what you guys think of the situation, because it just feels so new to me, this kind of regular season situation the NHL has had to go through. It's definitely something that's hard to pinpoint, in my opinion, because I feel like both sides have merits to it, honestly. It's just one of those situations that leads to frustration and leads to negativity, especially when you're an NHL player. I think that kind of goes a little bit untalked about when we're talking about the NHL this season, is the players and what they have to go through, especially for players that, again, are asymptomatic, don't really have anything going on. For them to be put out for days and weeks on end, not being with their team, it definitely would cause a lot of frustration on that end, and I'm not surprised that we're seeing NHL players and managers and GMs speak about it. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say anything with definitive action, but at the same time, the thing that I want to stress is that I really don't feel like COVID's going away anytime soon. I feel like this is going to be a thing that we have to deal with and work around every single year going forward, and I feel like the NHL's situation and handling of COVID cases this year is a really short-term and short-sighted view on it. I feel like the NHL should have a much more long-term plan, because I think that's what's going to need to happen, especially as we see COVID cases continue to wrap up with Omicron and continue to see it be a thing. I feel like the NHL, it just feels like they haven't really planned this out long-term and have really planned out a long-term system for this thing, because I really don't think if COVID's going to be a thing over these next few years that this system is going to really be the way that players are going to want it to be. I mean, maybe for these last couple of years, last year and this year, it will be okay for some, but if we continue to see this system continue year after year, I think we're going to see a lot of players get extremely fed up, as they probably should, and I feel like it's just a band-aid on a situation that needs a much bigger band-aid, honestly. I feel like it's just a short-term view for the NHL that maybe could work this year, but the NHL desperately needs something more long-term, because, again, I don't think COVID's going away anytime soon, and the players are starting to kind of revolt against this system too. I want to see everybody healthy. I want to see everybody be as happy as humanly possible, and it feels like nobody's winning under this current system and situation. But to me, the absolute worst thing that the NHL could do is have teams out there with like 15 skaters like they've had with the Preds and other teams like the Avalanche, and have them have to bring up a bunch of like 10 AHL players up to the team. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, and it's, again, going back to that short-term view. That isn't a long-term view for things. You can't have teams doing that every single week. It just is not going to end up working, and it's going to make betting on the NHL, it's going to be making watching the NHL so much worse on a daily basis, and I feel like that, to me, is the biggest problem. Either shut them down or have them play, but having these shorthanded teams all the time is almost ruining the quality of the sport. I think there was a Preds not a Preds, there was a Preds and Blackhawks game recently that the Preds were down like 5 players or something, and they had to have a bunch of AHL, not just players, but coaches brought up, and that's just, it's a completely different thing than what we're expecting. And again, with the NHL putting so much money into betting, so much money into predicting the game, for the quality to be this bad when these situations arise is pretty disappointing. So I'm hoping whatever the NHL does, they're able to learn from this situation. If we do see a shutdown, I'm hoping they're able to maybe revise some of these decisions that they make. It just doesn't make any sense to me to have it the way they've had at it, and we're starting to see the flaws of the system come up these next couple of weeks. Now, again, it does kind of seem more and more likely that a lockdown might be possible, at least for a big chunk of the league. Maybe not all, but a big chunk of the league, and we're seeing teams now like Vancouver who are having their next few games postponed too. So it's a situation where the NHL can't really afford to lose any more time, and I haven't even talked about the Olympics in this video yet, a situation that is extremely escalating right now. And if the NHL loses more games and has to postpone even more games on top of this, the Olympics are just a farther and farther thing out. There will likely still be some NHL players going, but for NHL teams, they're going to have to reschedule these games possibly during that Olympic break, which will make things even more complicated. So again, I don't envy the NHL situation, but the NHL, not even just the Olympics, has been a mess this year and a mess these last couple of weeks. And again, Olympics-wise, it definitely feels like it's less and less of a likelihood as the days go by. The NHL season is in peril, let alone the Olympics, and it all kind of seems like a big, gigantic mess right now. But if there's anything you take away from this video, I'm hoping that you take away that you guys right now watching this video need to take care of yourself. I put a tweet out there a little bit ago about how this week has just been super stressful sports-wide, and we've seen the same exact situations go through the NFL and the NBA. The entire sports world is being affected by these things, and I want to say, for all the sports fans out here, all the hockey beauties on this channel, please take care of yourself, take care of your mental health right now, because it has been a scary last couple of weeks, and our outlet, our escape in sports has almost been taken away just like it was in March 2020. So any reason you guys can to take care of your mental health, please do, and I'm hoping you guys are able to stay safe during this whole crazy time and have a great holidays. We'll see what happens, but take care of yourself, be as awesome as you can be, and I'll say this, it feels kind of scary right now, it kind of feels like March 2020, but we will get through this. It's a much different time, and I'm hoping that the NHL is able to come back better and stronger than ever throughout the next couple weeks, and we hopefully get back to a somewhat new normal in the NHL. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and tuning into this update. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below, what do you guys think of this whole crazy COVID situation in the NHL? What do you think the NHL should do? What should they change? How should these systems change? Let me know what you guys think. Do you still think they'll go to the Olympics as well? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. Make sure you share this video with friends, get the updates out there, and click on this card for all of my Hockey Trade Rumor content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.